shit.
And welcome back to Ben's Rant Nation. I'm your host, Ben. Please like and subscribe, share this video, and comment below if you like the content. Get into things. I was watching Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream. I watch her because sometimes she'll have some decent conservative voices on there. So I like to watch it, despite the fact that she often likes to pretend that the left-wing voices that she often has on the show are somehow nonpartisan. Middle of the road, don't you know? Just an average truth teller that happened to be Democrat. But the Republicans, now they're partisan. And she'll set every show up like that. So I do like to watch it just for the contrasting opinions and whatnot. But on this particular case, she puts on Representative Jake Auchincloss. Now, for those of you that don't know this guy, he's about one pronoun away from being a squad member. But I digress. Once again, she passes off her far-left guest as someone who's just middle of the road, just an honest person like you, and he's telling the truth. Just happens to be a Democrat. So that's how she sets the show up, like he's some kind of expert because he's a Harvard alum. So what I'm going to do is highlight this guy's voting record so I can show you guys just how partisan this guy actually is, since Shannon Bream failed to do so. So here we go. First of all, he voted for H.R. 5. That's the so-called Equality Act. What it does is it adds sexual orientation and gender identity as a protected class of citizenship. He also voted for H.R. 1319. Otherwise known as the American Rescue Plan. This was a $1.9 trillion stimulus package, but this was one of the largest increases in inflation and food and energy prices in American history. This was literally the number one reason that Donald Trump got reelected in a landslide. He also voted for H.R. 1, the Florida People Act. This bill hijacked the election process by allowing felons to vote and forcing states with voter ID laws to allow people to still vote even if they have no form of identification. He voted for H.R. 1603. Otherwise known as the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. This bill allowed tens of millions of illegal immigrants that Joe Biden welcomed into the country to get legal status simply by registering as a certified agricultural worker. That's totally outrageous. He also voted for H.R. 4, the Child Voting Rights Advancement Act. Sounds pretty big, but this is yet another attempt to overturn voter ID laws and prevent states from ensuring the integrity of their own elections. Voted for H.R. 3755. Otherwise known as the Abortion for All Act. This bill gives unfettered access to abortion on demand in all 50 states with no limit on anything. He voted for H.R. 7910. Called the Protecting Our Kids Act. Oh yeah, this was another attempt to disarm law-abiding citizens by simply erasing the Second Amendment from the Constitution. Voted for H.R. 1808. The Assault Weapons Ban Act. This bill prohibits the future sales of so-called assault weapons. So we got liberals still can't find and the future sales of high-capacity magazines. Because what's that? Now, it's important to note, he also voted against a few key things, right? So he voted against H.R. 2. That was known as the Secure the Border Act, because secure borders, they're racist, right? He voted against H.R. 2670. That was for depoliticizing the Department of Defense, because it partisan foreign politics to influence our military, make them super woke. He voted against H.R. 863. The whole Secretary allowed no because obviously he was doing an excellent job. However, in truth, he did vote to impeach dead President Trump not once, but twice. He voted against H.R. 7109. The Equal Representation Act. So this bill, speaking of the road, it discounts non-citizens from the U.S. Census account to ensure that the correct number of congressional representatives are elected per state or U.S. citizens as the law within the first place. What this does is protect far-left sanctuary states from over-representation due to the tens of millions of illegal immigrants that Democrats have above their. Finally, he voted against H.R. 345. So the topic of this interview is the Trump administration cutting all the billions of dollars in funding this far-left enterprise known as Harvard.
Jew hatred, the anti-Semitism, the vandalism, the taking over of buildings, the interrupting of education. That is not what you are allowed to do if you are here as a guest.
Tammy Bruce set this up. Okay, this is the issue. It's an 80-20 issue, 90-10. Everybody's okay with a far-left radical institution like Harvard paying for their own indoctrination camps. So here he is, just like I said, he's trying to set himself up as this nonpartisan, middle-of-the-road figure by first talking about what he agrees with the other side on.
Joining me now here in Boston, Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss, also a Harvard alum, as we've mentioned. Great to have you in.
Good morning, Shannon.
Okay, so let's start here. Harvard is scoring legal wins, that's for sure, but they've got this PR issue as well, where you've got everyday average Americans who are taxpayers who say, why are we giving billions of dollars to this university that has an enormous endowment? They've got these anti-Israel protests on campus. They don't see a representation of any kind of conservative viewpoint.
Right now, Harvard does do a good job of that with science, and Americans benefit from high-quality science. I'll give you an example.
Oh, so according to Jake Auchincloss, the only thing Harvard does well is science. So let's just forget that the rest of Harvard is burning down in the meantime. That's what the far left often does. They'll ignore 95% of the problem and then focus on one little thing and not talk about anything else. They just ignore all the other bullshit that's happening.
Because instead of promoting Harvard science, the university is canceling contracts for autism researchers. How does that make Jewish students safer?
This guy is too much. So now, instead of addressing the actual topic of what they're talking about, he's now moving the goalpost once again, linking the funding that's being taken away again, because of anti-Semitism. And he's now saying that the Trump administration doesn't care about autism research. That's why they're really taking away the money. No, dumbass. They're taking away money that does not belong to them, by the way, because they're anti-Semitic. Again, when an American institution is regurgitating the very same views of Adolf Hitler, they probably shouldn't be getting billions of dollars in taxpayer funds. Nobody is talking about autism, about science. Nobody's talking about that as a reason for the funds being taken away, except for you, the same guy who disregards biology and thinks men can be women. There's a reason for that, because you can't defend anti-Semitism.
Well, to that point, Ben Sasse, former senator who has been president of 2 universities, he talks about that funding issue and says, you've got this huge endowment. Harvard isn't owed in perpetuity the discretionary billions of federal funding it's received in the past. There's a massive gulf between finding new cancer treatments and funding campus wackiness, between developing digital technologies to enable synthetic biology and subsidizing activist professors' Hamas advocacy. He cites Gallup polling that shows Americans' confidence in higher ed has really been dropping off. He says the only way forward is for schools like Harvard to, quote, acknowledge they've screwed up.
Right now, we have a system in place for time, place, and manner restrictions on protests that disrupt a suitable learning environment or are targeted harassment against students. The administration should be pursuing that under the Office of Civil Rights, not taking it out against cancer researchers.
Are you serious? So once again, this guy can't get off the whole science thing. That's really all he's got. Taking away money that does not belong to Harvard is not targeting cancer research. It's not bullying anybody. He's simply trying to get as many buzzwords in as possible just to see what sticks.
Okay, to this point on free speech on the campus, and you talk about efforts there, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression has named Harvard the worst school in the country for free speech for 2 years running. Alan Garber, the president we saw a moment ago, he told NPR this: we've been very clear that we think we do have issues, and I would particularly emphasize the speech issues.
Agreed. I've said the same thing. I think Harvard was 270th out of 270 for individual expression on campus. That needs to change. That is not going to change by Harvard, though, ceding to authoritarian bullying.
That's bullshit!
Change by Harvard giving in to progressive orthodoxies of the left. Harvard needs to be independent. Senator Sasse is right that training the next generation of leaders is a public trust. Harvard needs to earn that trust, but it's not going to earn that trust by giving in to politics, right or left.
So did you catch what he just did right there? I wanted to point it out for you because Shannon Bream does a horrible job. She points out nothing and lets this guy just lie and lie and lie. So all the Trump administration is asking is for Harvard to not be a hate group, to not be anti-Semitic. That's it. Jake Auchincloss is saying that is political. By telling a school that they can't persecute Jewish students, that is, quote, bending the politics to this guy. So I want to make sure that you caught that, because Shannon Bream did a piss poor job of holding this radical accountable.
Yeah, what the administration is asking of Harvard, though, is pedagogical and curricular control over its different departments. That's totally unacceptable.
That's bullshit!
A Democratic president or a Republican president, they don't get to control the curriculum of our universities.
In what way, though? Because if they're talking about, we want information on the students that are on campus, they've requested that through DHS, we want you to crack down on anti-Semitism, how is that getting to curriculum?
Well, they want hire and fire oversight over the different departments within Harvard. And
that's
just not
bullshit!
To give to a politician. What you can say is through the Office of Civil Rights, we're going to look at suitable learning environment, we're going to look at targeted harassment, we're not going to allow that, and we're going to pursue legal cases through OCR as necessary and as they have done.
So that's another lie that Shannon Bream just allowed this guy to get away with. Okay, nobody from the administration has ever asked for hire or fire oversight or authority. That's never even been mentioned until this guy just lied about it right now. Shannon Bream, once again, did not correct this guy. So I could keep going like this for the rest of the interview. It would probably take over an hour for me to correct all of his lies that Shannon Bream let him get away with. So I'm not going to do that to you. I think you got the picture. That's all I got for right now. Stay informed, folks.
That's bullshit!